This is the round ahead. Thanks to Coles, Nat Edwards and Josh Gabelich with you as usual. But Chad Wingard, he is out this week. The man is in Darwin. We will get to him in just a moment. But coming in is the star from the round so far, Kate McCarthy. I love a little bit of a show crossover. Welcome.
The resident fill-in, that's me. Yes, no, it's great to be here, but I'm a little bit disappointed. We didn't put any Brisbane Lions paraphernalia out to welcome me in, but that's okay.
There's a little bit over here, so I might have to move that at some point during the show for you.
I'm glad you dressed in your favourite colours for me, Nat. I appreciate that.
We're celebrating all things Essendon today. We will get to the Bombers in just a moment. Good to see you as well, Josh.
I thought this was a mid-season trade.
Oh, it could be. Well, we'll see how well this trade has turned out. But let's get into it because there is a lot coming your way in round 10. Of course, the first week of Sir Doug Nicholls Round is here. We'll get to Thursday night in a moment. Friday night, it's the Swans and the Blues going head-to-head. The Pies will head into their blockbuster clash against the Crows without their skipper, the Power and the Cats. That's another mouth-watering clash for you. And then how will the Dogs respond after a narrow loss in tough conditions last week? That'll be interesting. To Sunday, can the Roos finally get another win on the board, and the Premier host the Demons while the winless Eagles take on the Saints? But the 10th Sir Doug Nicholls Round kicks off with a bang in the top end. It's Thursday night footy thanks to Coles, and TIO Stadium is becoming a bit of a fortress for those Gold Coast Suns. They've now won a record 7 games in a row at the venue. They also have a commanding recent record over Hawthorn, having won 4 of their last 5 encounters. Kate, any concerns though, given they are coming off a 5-day break, those hot, steamy conditions, and a tough finish against the Dogs? Are you worried about the Suns at all?
No, they were pushed all the way to the final siren. They did have to play out the full 4 quarters to get the win, but they've been up there all week. They've played there 7 times now and haven't had a loss. So I feel like they'll be in the groove. They know what to expect from the ground. They know what to expect from the conditions, and I think they do take the advantage, even though they've had a short break in against Hawthorn on Thursday night.
They're often even better, Kate, the second time. They play these 2-game series and they're often even better. Think back to last year, they smashed Geelong by 64 points.
Yeah, they love this.
They scored 26 goals.
Yeah, it's actually insane. Well, they are resting some players, and one of them is their number 1 ruckman in Jared Witts. The Hawks also resting their number 1 ruck in Lloyd Meek. And Josh and Kate, they've called in the backups, and, well, they're actually pretty handy players in their own right.
Well, Nat, just like a backup quarterback, you never know when you're going to need a backup ruckman. And tomorrow night in Darwin, we're going to see 2 of the best plug-and-play backup ruckmen in the AFL go head-to-head. They're finally going to get a chance this year. Ned Reeves, Kate, has been waiting the best part of 12 months for another opportunities in Sam Mitchell's team. And with no Lloyd Meek, he gets his shot.
Yeah, well, he played 21 games in 2023, just the 4 in 2024. In that season in 23, averaged 28 hit-outs, and I mean, I'm the backup today, so who am I to say that backups aren't bad? It's fantastic to have a player like Ned Reeves on your list. He's just 26, so he still has a lot of development to go, but I am excited to see him up against Ned Moyle, the other backup for the Gold Coast Suns, on Thursday night.
I dare say a lot of rival clubs will be having a close look at Ned Reeves tomorrow night. Now, a lot of rival clubs came for Ned Moyle last year, and he signed a 4-year extension to remain with the Gold Coast Suns. And if Tristan Xerri's taught us anything, Kate, they're worth the time and investment.
Yeah, and why would you not? He's 23. A lot of these other players that we're talking about on lists as backups are ageing. They're 36, 31, 33. So he has youth on his side, and he's only going to get better and better. Obviously, the VFL Premiership in 2022 and was in the Team of the Year as well. So he's someone that has stamped his authority on big games, but still working his way through into AFL lists as a full-time ruck. But I love what he does, and I'm excited for this matchup on Thursday night.
Now, grand final day last year, a player turned up at the age of 31 with 35 games of experience next to his name. He walked away with a premiership medal. He showed just how important it is to have a backup on your list. What a performance by Darcy Fort in his 3rd game of 2024.
And we see so many of other clubs without backup rucks on their list that are chasing players like this. His ability to come in, I mean, you can tell by the way that the Lions speak about him on their list. He's the ultimate team player. He's someone that can plug a hole anywhere. We've seen him play a few games this year as well, not just in that ruck position. So, yeah, to be a premiership player, to come in on the biggest stage of all and have an impact, Darcy Fort is someone that you would want as a backup on your list.
Now, Todd Goldstein is the second oldest player in the AFL in 2025 behind Scott Pendlebury. He started the year as a third stringer. This wasn't the plan. They had Sam Draper, they had Nick Bryan, but so early in this year, he's proven that you do need ruck security on your list.
Well, I think he was technically supposed to be like the ruck coach down there, and he did coach them, but to his sort of amusement and amazement, he came in on Anzac Day and has... Clearly, he's experienced, he knows how to play the role well. He also knows how to get the best out of those around him. So I think having that sort of calm head down there, but also being able to come in, play a role as the ruck has been so vitally important to Essendon. I know if you ask them, he was probably not planned to be playing much this year. If you asked him, he probably felt the same. But he's got games and he'll be playing a fair few as they've lost two of their key forwards and key rucks as well.
Nat, this is why you need a backup plan.
Oh, we love a backup, and who can forget that Brent Renouf in 2008 became a premiership player after being a backup for most of the season. Now, back on the Suns, they are 6-2 at the moment. They're sitting 4th on the ladder, and I guess their ball movement has been redefined by a couple of key recruitments. I'm speaking about Dan Rioli and John Noble, but I want to focus in on premiership tiger Dan Rioli because, Kate, he has been outstanding, and Hawthorn is going to need to have a plan to limit his influence.
He certainly will. Him and David Noble, as you said. Sorry, John Noble, not him. That was his dad, David Noble. But yes, they're both going to be pivotal points to this game and moving the ball off half-back. But Dan Rioli, it just speaks volume of you as a player if a coach goes out of their way to get you on their list, to know your value, to know how important you are to a team. That just speaks so highly of your integrity, your professionalism, and also your ability to help them win games. When a coach poaches you, when they've coached you before, is just incredible. And he's only going to get better in this Gold Coast Suns team, and he's shown how much of an impact he can have already.
So have either one of you ever had a song written about you? You, Josh?
Definitely not.
No?
Probably without knowing, and it's probably not favourable, so I don't want to know about it.
Well, Dan Rioli, at the Suns Family Day that they held across the weekend, he actually had a family member write a song about him. Let's take a listen.
Down on Louisiana, down in New Orleans, back up in the wood and every year I play. Down on Long Cabin, Nat Edwards, here it can be boy named Johnny Big Radio. Never had a rock star race so well. Play the guitar, you like a ring the bell. Go, go, Johnny Gaga, go. Go, Johnny Gaga, go. Go, Johnny Gaga, go. Go, Johnny Gaga, go. Go, Johnny be good.
Didn't mind that. I reckon it took Dan a little bit of time to get into that, Josh. Like, I think initially he was like, what is going on? And then he got into the clapping. Maybe they should play that if he kicks a goal at the weekend.
It's very English football, isn't it? Where there is a chant based around a player. I love it.
You absolutely love that. Now, I did mention at the top of the show that our dear friend Chad Wingard is in Darwin for the week, and he caught up with one of his former teammates in Hawk star Carl Amon and Hawthorn's Indigenous Player Development Manager Jamie Bennell for a chat ahead of the game.
So Jamie, can you tell us a little bit about this year's design?
Yeah, obviously a huge honour for me and privilege to do this for the Hawthorn Footy Club this year. As this year we're paying tribute to 100 years of Hawthorn Football Club, I wanted to bring that aspect into the design as well. So we wanted to celebrate with the stars on this side. We've got 13 stars to represent the 13 premierships that have been won by the club. On this side is our transition from 5 different home grounds through the journey. The Hawk obviously oversees our football club and kind of is the protector, but also is in that action there, ready to hunt down some prey. And then here is the football club in general. So he's looking after our players that go out and represent.
Jamie, so how has the club really embraced the Indigenous culture here up in NT?
Yeah, so the boys landed in yesterday. We went down to the beach, Casuarina Beach, for a traditional saltwater welcome, which was awesome down there. We had James come and present what the meaning is behind it, and it was real, just authentic, and I think the boys really loved it, followed by some traditional food. So we had mud crab, magpie geese. The boys had a bit of a feast, which was nice.
Yeah, really loved it. I think it was the first saltwater ceremony that I've been involved in, and really loved it. I think it was something different, something tied to the land up here, and it was really special. I think everyone loved it, and obviously, as Jamie said before, it was a nice feed after it as well. Yeah, I think what some of our past players have brought to the game is it's so special, and obviously there's a bit of a decline in numbers at the moment. So I think any way we can celebrate it and put it on the national stage is really important. You know, we love our footy and we bring so much to the game, so any time we get to celebrate it, I think it's really cool too.
Thanks to Chad there. Now to Friday night footy, and it is the Swans and the Blues going head-to-head at the SCG. Both sides are outside the top 8 right now. A win is so crucial in the context of their season and their chances of making finals. Kate, if the Swans are to get back on the winners list, though, they're going to need to learn how to play 4 quarters of footy.
Yeah, they are. And there's been a lot of chat around what's going wrong for the Swans. Obviously, they've had a whole lot of injuries. But the thing that's caught my eye is their inability to play 4 quarters or for teams to get runs on against them. So they've conceded runs of 9, 7 and 11 goals across halves of football. And sometimes it's the first half, sometimes it's the second half. And they just have this inability to really fade in and come back in games. So that's the area that I think their consistency needs to improve, and that ability when you lose a contest or lose or concede a goal to just halve the next one. You don't need to win the next one, you need to halve it, make sure the opposition doesn't, and that's something the Swans haven't been able to get a real grasp on this season, to just stop and negate their opponents from scoring multiple goals against them and stemming the flow of momentum in games.
And Josh, what about the Blues? Because they haven't had a lot of success at this venue in particular, albeit they don't play there all that often.
Well, Nat, you know, I spent a bit of time on this week looking at clubs' interstate records, and I did discover that Collingwood now has the best interstate winning percentage across the past decade.
Of course you brought up the Pies.
After that win against Fremantle, but I looked at Carlton as well, and they are ranked 14th across the past decade. They don't travel too well. In fact, they've won only twice at the SCG since 1993. Now, they don't play there too often, but that is a big sample size, so they need to get a lot right tomorrow night.
They certainly will. To the tape now, and the match of the round for me is certainly going to be at the MCG when Collingwood and Adelaide go head-to-head. Collingwood, they have won their last 9 games against the Crows as we roll the tape, but the last 3 meetings have been so tight, and the Crows have lost the last 3 games by a combined 7 points. And Josh, I'm expecting things to go down to the wire once again.
Absolutely. History tells us that. These are always really good games, whether they're at the Adelaide Oval or at the MCG. So many great finishes. Isaac Rankin is one that springs to mind.
Oh, we're going to see that in just a moment.
I can't forget that. We've got the tape measure out post-game to check exactly how far he ran.
Here we go.
Here it is.
I know. Do you reckon he ran too far? Well, it's after this one. But quite clearly, these two sides have a fantastic rivalry. And the Crows have had their chances to actually break this losing streak. Kate, how far did he run? And, oh, damn, about the hamstring.
Yeah, well, he definitely ran too far. I think that's been it. But
23 metres, I believe.
Have a feel for the theatre. Come on.
I know, come on.
Get that inside 50 and it plays out. But, yeah, what ended up happening, obviously, as we know, the Pies by 4 points in 2024, which was their most recent meeting. But I agree, it's going to go down to the wire because we've seen 2 of the best teams for both attack and defence this season. So both of their rankings, if we have a look here, so second for points for Adelaide, first for points for Collingwood, and points from turnover equal, and then their ability to score as well. So I think we know that the defence from Collingwood is so well solidified, but then we also know the 3 talls from Adelaide have been quite a handful for a number of teams so far this year, and the challenge is only made a little bit more daunting with no Darcy Moore. And Josh, you've got an update for that with Collingwood's team and how they're going to look.
Okay, just when it looked like Craig McRae was going to be faced with some massive selection decisions this week, a couple of them have been taken out of his hand. Darcy Moore has been ruled out due to an AC joint injury. Now, he suffered this against Fremantle quite late in that game and hasn't got up in the end, so he'll miss at least 1 week. Jordan De Goey is the other one that we thought would come back. The plan was to rest him for that trip to WA and then to bring him back in. He has been ruled out again, and there is a lack of clarity on when he'll return with another Achilles issue. And Brody Mychek is the other one. This is a guy that didn't make the trip west, had a abdominal injury in this game, played out the last quarter, had such a huge impact against Geelong in that last quarter. So I watch on him this week. Nick Dacos is fine, he's good to go. Scott Pendlebury and Braden Maynard will both come back in after being managed. And then all eyes are on Charlie West. Everyone is waiting to see this guy make his debut
Is it this
for Collingwood.
week?
I think it will be, Nat. He made the trip to Perth They didn't play him in the end. He had a little foot niggle, and Craig McRae wants to set players up to succeed. But he came back across, played in the VFL on Saturday and kicked 4 more goals against the Northern Bulldogs. So that's 15 in 5 games now for Charlie West.
Will you be wearing his player badge next week if he does get the gig? Because I know you're big on this guy.
I just think he's so exciting, and you don't see too many key forwards make an impact straight away after being taken at pick 50. And there is so much intrigue around him because of his impact at Collingwood across the past 6 months.
No, he is certainly exciting. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we get to see him at AFL level as early as this week. Now, if the Pies can get everyone fit and healthy, they will be a force to be reckoned with come the business end of the season. But another powerful force that I want to talk about right now is Connor Rozee, the Port Adelaide skipper. He has been in stunning form since moving to halfback. He is catapulted really to the top of the AFL Coaches Association's Champion Player of the Year votes. They come up against Geelong at the weekend. Look at Connor Rozee there. I mean, he's just been in stunning form. But the Cats are going to have a big challenge curtailing the skipper there, aren't they, Kate?
Yeah, they certainly will. And he's had 28 of those 40 votes that we see there on the coaches' votes leaderboard come from when he's been moved to halfback. So that just shows what an impact that has made. That's on the back of playing for round 1 and 2 in the midfield where he had 35 and 39. But I love the ability for Ken Hinkley to look at that and say, we're not getting the best out of him here. He was quiet against Essendon, so they moved him around. They played with his positioning. I love him off halfback and the ability to still hit the scoreboard. So in the 5 games he's played off halfback, he's still kicked 5 goals. So he's been able to hit the scoreboard, float down as a halfback that uses the ball really nicely, and he's a beautiful kick inside 52, Josh.
I think there's a lot of Josh Carr about this move because Josh Carr used him there in a premiership with North Adelaide in his draft year. So I just love Josh Carr just making a few tweaks to this team. We know what's going to happen come October.
No, Willie Rioli is set to return for Port Adelaide for this game after having a week off. He was suspended by the AFL for 1 match for threatening opposition players. And I do want to have a discussion about this. And I do also want to acknowledge that we are 3 non-Indigenous people sitting here right now talking about this. I do wish Chad was here with us to have this conversation because it is quite nuanced and complex. None of us have experienced what Willie has on and off the footy field, so we can't really understand that part. But I think, and it's not an excuse for his behaviour, Josh, but I think that it's incumbent on all of us as a footy community and fans of the game to try and understand the reasons behind someone's behaviour. And I really hope he has a positive experience when he steps back onto the footy field on the weekend.
Well said, Dan. I'm really looking forward to seeing him, hopefully this Saturday against Geelong, because it's been a massive week for him. Just put yourself in his shoes and what he's gone through. He's gone through so much in his footy career to date at West Coast and moving across to Port Adelaide and all the challenges he went through the suspension, all the racial abuse that he cops. You speak to anyone at Port Adelaide, this guy cops it day in, day out. And as you touched on, it doesn't condone some of his behaviour on field across the last 12 months, but it is pent up. So hope we can move on now, Kate, because it's been a real saga.
A change of pace now, and there is a man from the big, big sound whose evolution as a player has been quite remarkable over the years, and he continues to make headlines. I'm talking, of course, about Jesse Hogan, and that's going to be a tough assignment for Fremantle's defence to come up against and handle on Saturday. And Josh, his story is really a remarkable one when you look at the roller coaster that has been his career.
Well, it's been a real roller coaster. It's a great way to put it because this guy, when he was at Fremantle, his career looked completely over. You go to 2020, he played 7 games. He had not just off-field issues that have been well documented. He had so many issues with his calf, and Greater Western Sydney knew that when they took him. They brought him across on a very low-budget, club-friendly deal, and pick 54 is what it cost. And, geez, if you could get a common medalist with pick 54, wouldn't you be a genius? But no one else wanted to touch him at that time, Kate. And you look at his first year at Greater Western Sydney, he only played 9 games, kicked 20 goals, but he couldn't stay on the park because of the calf issues. They have carefully managed him across the past 4 or 5 years to the point now he's gone 35 goals, 49 goals, and then the explosion in 2024, 77 goals, a Coleman medal, an All-Australian Blazer, and a best and fairest. What an arc.
Yeah, and it looks like he's going to almost replicate that same season this year. He's only played the 6 games and he's second on the Coleman ladder leaderboard. And obviously looking at that, Ben King, he does have a game in hand, but the thing I can't highlight enough, Jesse Hogan has only played 6 games of this season and he is sitting at 25. It's going to take a lot to stop him, and The beauty of coming off a Coleman year, or the thing that you're almost up against, is teams know that you're the dominant force in the forward line. We've seen it with other players in the past that they get 2 defenders most often than not, but he's still been able to fight through that. The way that they use the ball going inside forward 50 also helps Jesse Hogan. They know how to kick it to his advantage or where he wants to be presented the ball, but he is just really fighting through, at times, a couple of defenders, but still finding his way to hit the scoreboard. And he kicked 7 on the weekend. We don't see that often enough anymore, and it's just been a huge season from him and a huge change in scenery, which has just shown that some players, when they move, when they get reinvigorated, when they find a way to fit into a team, there is still space for them on an AFL list.
Does he win the Coleman this year?
I think he does, yes.
Josh?
Ben King's my tip. I just think he's built across the last 3 or 4 years, kicked 55 last year. I think he's the main focal point. I know Jesse Hogan is that clearly as well at Greater Western Sydney, but with Ethan Reid and Jed Walter playing a sort of a backseat role, I just think Ben King is going to get a lot of opportunities this year, and he's building very nicely.
Shout out to Jack Higgins, because he's the only small forward in that list that we just saw up there with 23
Who's
goals.
had the most shots this year?
Is it Jack?
Jack Gunston.
Oh, it's Jack a different
From 6.5
Jack.
No, that's what you
The
meant.
veteran. That's what I meant. Jack Gunston. That's what I'm talking about. All right, from goal kickers that are in form to a team that has been, well, they've been playing pretty well at the moment. And I'm talking about the Bombers. They faced the Bulldogs on Saturday night at Marvel Stadium. And Essendon, when you look at their recent form, they've won 5 of their past 6 games. Kate, are you a believer?
I'm a believer that they're getting there. I'm not a believer that it's going to happen this year.
Okay.
I'm a believer that their list and the players that they're investing in are starting to show that they are developing in a way that we probably haven't seen for a number of seasons now. We sort of sit here. They were at a similar spot this time last year. 5 wins, a draw, 2 losses. At the moment, 5 wins, 3 losses. But we can't forget they had a really bad sort of fade out towards the end of last year. 11 was their magic number. They finished 11th, 11 wins, 11 losses and 1 draw to go with it. But I do think holistically their list, but the players that have been on their list now for a couple of years, we're starting to see the best of, Josh.
Spot on, Kate. You look at what came out last year. They made a really clear list management decision under Matt Rosa, his first full year in that role. Dyson Heppel retired, Jake Kelly retired, Jake Stringer was traded and only got pick 53, but I thought it was the right decision. We're seeing why now with the emergence of Nate Caddy. And hasn't Zach Reid made a significant difference? Those 2 players are 2 of 7 that played against Sydney on the weekend with less than 20 games of experience. So they're exposing a lot of youth. Yes, we're making a lot of the 5 wins from 6 games in a row, but it's the youth that have
It's exciting.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot, I think, for Bombers fans to be happy about at this point
That's why
of
you've
the
dressed the way you
season.
have.
Exactly. I'm on the Bombers bandwagon, if you can believe it. No one believes that. On Sunday at the Gabba, though, Brisbane and Melbourne, it's an intriguing clash because it pits 2 Telstra AFL Rising Star contenders up against each other. I'm talking about Harvey Langford and Levi Ashcroft. And Josh, I know you're absolutely obsessed with Harvey. And Kate, you are Team Ashcroft of the Levi variety. So what I want you to do is convince me, you two, who is winning the Rising Star this year?
Well, just firstly, Nat, we haven't had a Rising Star race like this for years, maybe even ever. Right now, there are at least 6, maybe 7 legitimate contenders after round 9. Kate, I want to start with Levi Ashcroft because this is a guy that's come exactly as advertised, and I get the sense, having spent a bit of time with you over the past month, that he is your pick right now.
He is, and I think that anticipation and the build-up is sort of working against him in this Rising Star market because he's come into a team that won the premiership last year. You don't get many debutants round 1 when there's a premiership winning team. He did that. He put his hand up over the summer and showed that he's got what it takes to be a starter in this side. He's been able to play mostly outside, so he plays mostly that wing role, but when he has gone in the middle, he's been able to generate some clearances. He's had a lot of score involvements and he's been able to hit the score himself. So I think he's sort of a little bit overshadowed because of how much pressure or how much anticipation we're putting on him coming into the side. So he's my vote at the moment, but the man closely behind him who I think has your vote is Harvey Langford.
I'm loving what Harvey Langford is doing. Pick 6 last November. He's played 8 games. He's the fastest player in AFL history to 150 disposals and 7 goals. He's having a big impact forward of centre. We're seeing him play mainly on a wing at the moment. He kicked 3 goals against Hawthorn at the MCG on Saturday to go with 22 disposals. He's had 20 plus 5 times. He's just so damaging with ball in hand. So I love what he's doing. I think we're going to see those two go head-to-head on a wing at the Gabba at some stages on Sunday. But they're not the only two that are the leading contenders.
It's a wide-open race,
It is wide open. It is certainly wide open. We've been talking a lot about this, Nat, this year. Sam Lawler's a name we've discussed at length. Murphy Reid, we're all enamoured with, given what he's doing in his first season. But how about a guy in his second season, Kate? Connor O'Sullivan played just the one game for Geelong last year, but he's played the first 9 this year, and we rarely see key defenders at this age and stage have this influence.
Yeah, and I think the thing that further sort of highlights his importance to the team and his ability to impact has been the injuries that they've had in that backline at Geelong. At times, he's had to take the key forward, which you wouldn't give a player in their second season usually that responsibility, and he's done it so well. He's been a player that has been talked about not only in the Rising Star as their best defender at Geelong because of the injuries that they had and the void that he's had to fill. So he's played well and truly above that expectation purely because of the role that he's had to play with those injuries.
How about the role of Nate Caddy? This is another guy in his second season who's got poster boy written all over him. He's kicking goals. He's kicked multiple goals in 5 of his past 6 games, but on Saturday at Marvel Stadium, it was almost a breakout statement performance against Sydney, which is why he was the round 9 Rising Star nominee.
And now he's a 2-time Rising Star nominee as well, so he joins that illustrious list of players who've been nominated twice. But his work rate has been the thing that stood out to me. His ability to work really hard up the ground. As key forwards, sometimes when you're new to the system, you have this want to stay deep, to call the ball in long, to not work hard for your possessions. Nate Caddy is the complete opposite to that. His work rate has been the thing that's really stood out to me.
Now, I know Essendon supporters will be screaming right now because we haven't mentioned another contender. Archie Roberts is not far behind this pack, Nat. He is going sensationally right now.
He certainly is, and you make very good arguments as you make your way back over to the desk, but I'm definitely on the Connor O'Sullivan fan club bandwagon at the moment because I think playing as a key defender is very, very tough indeed. As we are about to wrap up the round ahead, just a quick whip around on a couple of other games for round 10. Richmond, North Melbourne, Sunday at the MCG. Out of these two sides, I want to ask you both, who is going to make finals first, Kate?
For me, it's North Melbourne for them having basically 2 to 3 years on Richmond at the moment.
Okay.
They've been where Richmond are. They've had the coach for 2 or 3 years now and they can start to implement that system. But I've been nothing but impressed by Richmond this season. A lot of people saying they wouldn't win a game. Well, they've won 3 and they're a very good chance of winning their 4th on the weekend.
They showed all of us. Josh, you?
I love North's talent. I think they've got a stack of young talent. We're seeing some of them emerge this year. We just need to see a bit more from their keys, especially down back.
And then West Coast and St Kilda, this one at Optus Stadium. I know a lot of people will be thinking probably just tune out of this game, but I smell an upset brewing, Kate. I love a banana peel game. Do you think I'm any chance of getting that right?
I think this could be one that Saints fans are a little bit nervous about. Typically, they've gone in games where they should win. They don't play as well as they can. So I think Ross will identify that and have them wound up and ready to go for a game. Obviously, the hardest road trip going over to Perth. I do have a little bit more faith in St Kilda at this time of the season than I do West Coast, but I think it's going to be closer than some people anticipate.
Upset brewing?
Yeah, Chad Wingard's got in my head.
No,
around
I know, but I am not Chad Wingard. And speaking of upsets, we should point out and congratulate, well, maybe give him a bit of a shout out for what he said last week.
I think this is going to be upset of the year. I think North Melbourne are going to win by 1 goal.
So I just want to point out, though, if you're going to talk the talk, you also need to walk the walk.
This is a great spot from you.
AFL.com.au tipping expert tips. I was scrolling through the article and I'm like, hold on a second. Chad Wingard tipped Brisbane despite the fact of what he said on our show, Josh.
And how chirpy was he in the group chat on Sunday?
I know, he was so chirpy, but he didn't put his money where his mouth is. And I think actions need to have consequences. And maybe, Kate, given you're the backup, after this we should discuss maybe a little punishment for Chad.
Well, he's got to be called Splinters for sure. He's got one foot, he's just on the fence. Splinters Wingard, that's
or maybe Chad just doesn't, he gets a week's suspension and you're back next week. Who knows? All right, that is the round ahead for this week. Kate, thank you so much for dropping by, and we'll see you, of course, on the round so far on Saturday night.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm anything round related, you'll see me.
Can't wait. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching the round ahead. Thanks to Coles. We'll see you again next week. Enjoy the footy.